There is not a single human being alive who knows how to make this toaster. Not one. Not the engineer who designed it, not the factory worker who assembled it, not anyone. That sounds impossible. It isn't. Let me show you why. In 2011, British designer Thomas Thwaites decided to build a toaster completely from scratch. Nothing exotic, just a basic electric toaster, the kind you'd find for $6 at any department store. He figured, with his design background, how hard could it really be? Turns out, for one person working alone, it's essentially impossible. The moment he opened up a cheap toaster to study it, he was floored. 400 separate parts, made from over 100 different materials. Where was he even supposed to start? How do you personally acquire iron ore, plastic, copper, rubber? He had no idea, so he started talking to professors, digging through history books, tracing the logistics of material sourcing and manufacturing all the way back to their raw origins. What followed was 9 months of Thwaites chasing an increasingly strange, increasingly obsessive journey across industries, continents, and centuries of human history. He mined copper from an abandoned mine on the island of Anglesey in Wales, pulled iron ore from the Clearwell Caves in England, then tried smelting it in a homemade furnace. He extracted mica from mountainsides in Scotland. He even genuinely attempted to make plastic out of potato starch in his own backyard. 9 months, thousands of dollars. And at the end of it, he had basically nothing. He couldn't figure out how to produce rubber, so the wires had zero insulation. He plugged the toaster in. 5 seconds later, the heating element melted itself into scrap. Thwaites called it the Toaster Project, and it was directly inspired by a scene in Douglas Adams' Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. A 20th century man finds himself stranded on a planet full of technologically primitive people. His plan: use his modern know-how to become a kind of emperor, transforming their entire civilization with the wonders of advanced technology. Except he quickly realizes something devastating. Sure, he came from a world with cars, computers, ballet, fine cognac, but he personally had no idea how any of it actually worked. Left completely to his own devices, stripped of the rest of civilization, he couldn't build a single piece of that technology. He could make a sandwich. That was about it. Thwaites' real-world experiment proved the exact same thing is true for every single one of us, right now, today. Look around you. Every object in reach, a fork, a bottle, the couch you're sitting on, all the way up to your phone, your laptop, your car, carries an enormous, invisible lineage of design, sourcing, manufacturing, and distribution behind it. Not one of us individually could carry out that entire process for a single object, let alone all the objects we casually use every day. Strip away modern civilization, and beyond the simplest primitive tools, most of us wouldn't be able to build much of anything at all. Take the toaster specifically. The copper wiring might be mined in Chile, then shipped to China for processing. The nickel in the heating element could come from Indonesia, refined somewhere else entirely. The iron ore might be dug up in Australia, then it still needs smelting into iron, refining into steel, and fabricating into the toaster's actual frame and parts. Multiply that across all 400 plus components. Hundreds, possibly thousands, of individual people are involved somewhere in that chain. Miners, chemists, engineers, designers, factory workers, shippers, retailers, most of whom only understand their own tiny slice of the process. Nearly everything you touch in an average day is, quite literally, a small miracle, forged from raw earth and human ingenuity, carried through vast manufacturing networks, delivered by carefully coordinated distribution chains, all of it originating from someone's idea. As the poet John Donne put it, no man is an island, entire of itself. Every man is a piece of the continent, a part of the main. Here's the part of Thwaites' discovery that gets genuinely dizzying. The smaller and simpler you try to make something, the further back in time the trail leads you. Every object, every piece of technology, isn't just tied to the web of modern global industry, it's tied to the entire web of human history. Every new idea builds directly on the idea before it, stretching back to the very first, crudest technologies humans ever developed. Humans learned to control fire hundreds of thousands of years ago. That's the reason we can now toast two sides of a slice of bread evenly, at the push of a lever. One doesn't exist without the other. Nothing exists without everything that led up to it. Which raises the obvious next question: where did any of it actually start? Humanity doesn't exist outside of nature. We're a species shaped by evolution like everything else on this planet. And yet, we're apparently alone in inventing fire, forging swords, raising buildings, flying planes, building computers, and artificial intelligence. Why? A big part of the answer traces back to something almost comically small: the thumb. The opposable digit sitting off to the side of each of our hands looks, at first glance, like a minor evolutionary footnote. It isn't. Nearly every network of civilization we live inside of today, every technology, every man-made object, the entire built world, traces back, in large part, to this one small appendage. In 2025, researchers at the University of Reading published a study titled "Human Dexterity and Brains Evolved Hand in Hand." They analyzed nearly 100 living and fossil primate species, humans, chimpanzees, gorillas, orangutans, macaques, and several ancient hominin species, looking for a link between thumb length and brain size. What they found: longer thumbs correlate with larger brains, specifically a larger neocortex, the part of the brain responsible for conscious thought, sensory processing, spatial reasoning, and complex language. The thumb and the neocortex appear to have evolved together, hand in hand, literally. On its face, that sounds bizarre. What could a thumb possibly have to do with consciousness or language? Follow the logic, though, and it clicks. Without some form of opposable thumb, meaningful gripping, grasping, and pinching becomes impossible, which means early tools like hammerstones, axes, spears, and sharpened sticks would never have taken the shape they did. Look at species without opposable thumbs. Crows bend twigs. Finches use cactus spines. Otters use rocks. Elephants manipulate branches with their trunks. All useful, and all extremely simple, imprecise, and limited. If human tools had stayed at that level of imprecision, our interactions with the world would have stayed simple too, and the mental modeling required to use those tools wouldn't have needed to grow more sophisticated. You don't need complex conceptual thinking for a world you can only poke and smash, but a world you can grip, shape, and manipulate with precision. That world demands more complex thought. Complex tools seem to put direct pressure on the brain to expand. More capable tools require more capable cognition, and more capable cognition in turn enables even more capable tools. We did evolve that grip. We learned to grasp, pinch, and build. Axes, then spears and bows, then plows and the written word, then engines, aircraft, and computers. Every leap expanded what was possible and needed next. Cognition and tool complexity climbing together in a feedback loop that's never really stopped. In the early 1890s, Ohio State University was building out its new campus. Part of the plan included a large open grass field that would eventually become known as the Oval. For years, there were no official walking paths through it, just open lawn. Students naturally started cutting across the grass to get between buildings, choosing whatever route was shortest or most convenient. Those routes wore the grass down into dirt trails. More students followed the visible trails, reinforcing them further. This is what's known as a desire path, and you've seen them everywhere. Campuses, parks, cities around the world, all shaped the same way. By the early 1900s, Ohio State actually built its official concrete sidewalks by following those worn desire paths exactly. The result was a strange, asymmetrical web of walkways sprawled across the field. A network formed entirely by the accumulated, unplanned choices of thousands of individual people walking toward their own individual goals. We tend to feel like we're choosing exactly where we go, what we do, and why. But history itself behaves a lot like a desire path. The world is a sprawling network of these seemingly random connections, forged over time by the accumulated patterns of human desire, and we each walk through it, every day, mostly unaware of the shape we're helping wear into it. Tools and technology don't just change how we physically interact with the world, they shape how we think about it abstractly too. We don't just arrive in the world with a thumb, we arrive with an entire cognitive model of reality, a particular scale of neocortex, an understanding of everything around us shaped by the current state of technology and culture. Thumbs didn't just lead to spears and spoons and toasters and smartphones. In a very real sense, they led to religion, philosophy, ideology, every belief system humans have ever constructed. Before thumbs, no creature could really grip or grasp the world in any meaningful way. Thumbs evolved, at their core, as a way to seize a little more control over an inherently chaotic, uncertain world. Here's the irony. Everything thumbs eventually allowed us to build and understand has mostly revealed just how little control we actually have over any of it. We built an almost unfathomably complex civilization. Industries, ideologies, religions, philosophies, mathematics, science. We invented fire and toasters and smartphones, and somehow we still don't fully control or even understand the systems we ourselves created. The modern world is essentially a self-propelling network of accumulated desires, worn into shape by every generation of humans that walked before us. Industry and culture keep moving forward, producing new technology and new ideas that land in our hands, our homes, our minds, and yet none of us can ever fully trace or comprehend the entire process behind any single one of them. Every one of our lives sits inside a web of contingencies that no single person or group ever fully chose, started, or controls. Our beliefs and ideas aren't so different from that toaster, built from hundreds of parts and materials, sourced from all over the planet, tracing back deep into history. What would the world look like without thumbs? Something completely alien to us, or maybe something almost impossibly basic. We'll never actually know. What we can know is that the world we've built now looks entirely alien compared to everything else in the known universe, a strange, beautiful, occasionally terrifying mix of technological and cognitive possibility, desire and need, good and bad, intelligence and ignorance, side by side. We don't know exactly where any of this is going. We don't fully know why it started in the first place. We don't know what our thumbs or our minds will build next. But in any given moment, it's worth sitting with just how absurd and improbable it is that anything gets held at all. From the simplest object to the grandest, a toaster landing on your kitchen counter, a pen in your drawer, shoes on your feet, a phone in your pocket, a single idea taking shape in your mind, and a thumb resting quietly on your hand, making all of it possible. Through our thumbs and our minds, we've changed the world completely. That's produced no shortage of miracles. It's also produced no shortage of damage. We owe it to the world to use that same capability, the same power that built toasters and cities and civilizations, to help preserve and repair the planet those innovations came from, to undo some of the damage, to help nature in the specific ways only we, as humans, actually can. That's part of why I partnered with Planet Wild for this video. Planet Wild is a community-funded nature protection organization, over 25,000 members, myself included, pooling funding every single month toward one carefully chosen mission: restoring forests, bringing back endangered species, protecting oceans. Within 30 days, you can actually watch your impact unfold, right here on YouTube, through their update videos. There's also an interactive map in their app, real funding data, and badges tracking your contribution over time. What I genuinely like about it is that the impact is visible and traceable, not just another donation receipt buried in your inbox, but a community you're actually part of watching something real happen. One of their recent missions helped restore the area around Lake Victoria, the world's largest tropical lake, supporting roughly 45 million people and over 600 freshwater species. The surrounding forest, which helps sustain the entire lake ecosystem, has been badly degraded in recent years. Planet Wild's been working to reverse that, planting 80,000 trees and funding the technology needed to help the forest and ecosystem recover long-term. Bringing nature back from the edge might be one of the most genuinely impressive things humanity is capable of, and Planet Wild is right at the front of that effort. If you want to help, scan the QR code or use the link in the description. The first 100 people who sign up with my code will have their first month covered by me. Cancel anytime, give whatever amount makes sense for you. And if you want to see it in action, the Lake Victoria mission is linked below. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.